Richard Spencer is a literal Nazi who was involved in the gathering where Heather Heyer was killed by American Nazis. New tape apparently that's come about as a result of Milo's attempt to undercut him in some way shows what his reaction to this tragic, horrible death was. Let's listen to a section which I believe has been carefully censored.
I am coming back here every weekend if I have to. Like, this is never over. No. I win, they lose. That's how the world works. They get ruled by people like me. My ancestors enslaved those pieces of.
We're gonna win.
I rule the world. Those pieces of get ruled by people like me. They look up and see a face like mine looking down at them. That's how the world works. We are gonna destroy this town.
But kids, don't ever punch a Nazi in the face. That's important. So there were anti-Semitic slurs. There were him saying proudly that people like him have enslaved other people. That was his response to Nazis killing a counter-protester. And I just want to put it out there, but as many people have noted, Jake Tapper had him on the air to respond to Trump's racist attacks against the Squad like 6 months ago.
Yeah, that sounds like someone who is not in their right mind that I hear in New York Penn Station screaming all the time. The fact that he sounds crazy. He sounds like he's lost his mind, but this is someone who has garnered some sort of political following, which is absolutely nuts. And I find it darkly hilarious that Milo was the one who leaked this to the media. I'm reminded of that Spider-Man meme of them pointing at each other. I mean, both are Nazis. So what did Milo have to gain by leaking this? We all knew this is who Richard Spencer was. Now we just know he's entirely unhinged. And I mean, it really the part where he talks about looking down and seeing a face like him, that's really chilling. And I think kind of speaks to the basest desires of racists in this country. They want to feel superior, and he embodies that with that statement.
Yeah, and there was a little bit of Bill O'Reilly's famous rant there. There was a little bit of Keanu Reeves in The Devil's Advocate. I think he literally quoted, that wasn't like a good thing in that movie. I think he missed sort of the moral of The Devil's Advocate there. Right. Great work by Keanu as always, but I think he missed some of the subtlety there. I agree. We already know who he was. I like the added context that at the same time this is being recorded, the president of the United States is going out and saying that there are very fine people on both sides. We'll have to see if he thinks that whether he thinks Richard Spencer is one of those fine people or not. But we all knew who he was, and the idea that Jake Tapper, who would never have you on to comment on a story or me on to comment on a story, would bring a literal self-declared Nazi on to talk about racist attacks against women of color in politics. This story is an indictment of Richard Spencer and American Nazis, but also of the media that has done backflips to try to normalize these people with front page New York Times articles and Jake Tapper's efforts as well.
Yeah, it's this dark fascination with that side of the political spectrum, but this isn't showing both sides. This is elevating actual people who are in favor of genocide, and you have a journalistic responsibility to take that into consideration. Now, there's this obsession with showing both sides. Obviously, we've been frustrated with that at the Young Turks for a long time. But what isn't talked about enough when criticizing the media is journalistic discretion and story selection. And so, you can choose not to do a story on specific things because you don't feel it's important. But clearly CNN and Jake Tapper thought it was very important to have Richard Spencer's voice. And that's some questionable editorial discretion in my view. Yeah, look, he's a particular sort of activist, an activist for white supremacy. There are other sorts of activists that I think Jake Tapper could have given 5 or 10 minutes to, but instead chose to go in this direction. Well, they won't hire any progressives or have any progressive voices on, so it's par for the course.
Yes. Emma Vigeland, as always, thank you for joining us. Everybody should go to Rebel HQ and see your work. We appreciate it, Emma.
Thank you.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.